Hi, this is Daniel Alpine, animation historian, and welcome to a new episode of Animation Memory Lane. When I was 5 years old, I witnessed the debut of a new Nickelodeon series, SpongeBob SquarePants. Little did anyone know is what a global phenomenon it would become. In 2004, when it looked that things couldn't get any bigger, it did. On November 19th of that year, the Little Yellow Sponge would star in a theatrical feature film, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. What the film did was take the character to the next level, in which the film was a high stakes adventure and a classic hero's journey. And the film proved to be a critical and commercial success. When asked if there would be a sequel, producer Julia Pistor expressed doubt of that ever happening. Executive producer Paul Tibbett later said that while it would be a delight, the problem is finding a story to be told in a movie instead of a typical 11-minute episode. For a while, Nickelodeon had tried to get a new SpongeBob movie into production in order to renew interest since the ratings for the series started to really plummet. As I also witnessed, after the first movie, the series started a slow decline in quality, and a handful of episodes ranged from good to so to bad. Part of the reason was because after the first movie, creator Steven Hellenberg left the series. I remember in art college, a friend said that he stopped watching after the episode House Fancy because it featured a really painful scene of SpongeBob wrecking Squidward's foot, which was a little graphic. But in 2012, Paramount Pictures officially announced that SpongeBob and Friends would be returning to the silver screen as the first project of the newly founded Paramount Animation Studio. It was also announced that Stephen Hellenberg would return as the executive producer and story writer on this new movie. When the first posters and images were revealed, me and other people were thinking, barnacles, this won't be 2D? But it was later revealed that the film would include 2D and that the structure would be that the scenes underwater and in Bikini Bottom would be done using traditional animation as the series in the first movie, and when the characters are up on the surface, that's when it'll be swapped to 3D computer animation. Well, that was a close one. The new movie was first scheduled for release of November 2014 to coincide with the 10th anniversary of the first movie, but soon it was pushed back to February of 2015 instead, which was a close call because it would have faced a lot of competition that November. The SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, was released on February 6, 2015 to positive reviews, and it would be a bigger success than the first one. What was surprising was that 70% of the film was in traditional animation, and 30 minutes of the third act is when the characters switch from 2D to 3D. But the publicity of the film, which included the trailers and TV spots, seemed to focus more on the 3D third act, which was sort of false advertising. People and even a professor at the School of Visual Arts that previously worked on the series were also skeptical of the concept of the characters becoming superheroes in the film. I admit that I too was initially skeptical because, well, the last time that the characters were superheroes didn't work out well, and, well, they proved to be super zeros instead. When I first saw the film in theaters, I remember my best friend Lauren laughing hard throughout the film, and I had to tell her a few times to not strain herself. After 10 years, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, has still proven to be a good film, but it is a little perplexing that this film received a higher score on Rotten Tomatoes than the first one because it wasn't as good as the first movie. I remember a different friend in college said that, well, she was not pleased with this new movie. What she told me was that the first movie had a very solid story, and the second one was a little too trippy for her. I will admit that the first movie was better because it had a little more heart to it, but still, the second movie is still enjoyable. And the film did have a clever concept of the hero, SpongeBob, teaming up with the series' central antagonist, Plankton, and in turn, Plankton learns an important lesson of being part of a team, and that there is the true heart of the movie. And it was pleasing that Sandy was given more screen time in this than the first movie. And the 3D animation for the third act was actually skillfully done, and the action scene was very thrilling. It proved to be a decent mixture of pulpy superhero action along with the typical comedy of SpongeBob. While the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, was a success during its theatrical release, as of now, it's the last time that these eccentric sea critters were ever on the silver screen. A second sequel was soon announced and was initially scheduled for a 2019 release to coincide with the series' 20th anniversary, but it was eventually pushed back to 2020. But COVID hit, and after a year, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, was released direct to streaming on Paramount Plus. And I think that that was a better decision because the movie itself was, well, a letdown. While the computer animation for the film was decent, still, I wish that it stuck to traditional animation. That and the story for the film was not particularly interesting. This is a typical instance of a clever concept that wasn't too well executed. But to me, it wasn't bad. But last summer was the release of a spin off movie, Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie, and I didn't see it, but what I've heard, it was awful. And it was a new low for the series. But thank goodness it was dumped onto Netflix because it would have tanked in theaters. And this year will be a new spin off movie, this time centering on Plankton. And after viewing the new preview, all I have is two words. Why? And that, I think I'll skip it. But this year will be the return of SpongeBob on the silver screen in a new film called The SpongeBob Movie: The Search for Square Pants. Everyone out there, let's all keep our fingers crossed that this new movie will be a return to form. If not, all we can do is watch the first two movies and be thankful that those were good. Well, that's all for now, and So, I'll be seeing ya.